Chapter 2. Self-Realization. Sanjaya. These are the words that Sri Krishna spoke to Arjuna, whose eyes were burning with tears of self-pity and confusion. Right from the beginning of the second chapter, Sri Krishna reveals himself as the perfect spiritual teacher, striking a strong note intended to shock Arjuna out of his despondency. When Sri Krishna, silent until now, opens the dialogue, there are no soft words, no honeyed phrases. He pours withering contempt upon Arjuna, who has been weeping and protesting that he cannot fight against his senses, passions, and self-will. No spiritual teacher fails to resort to this method of shocking and strengthening us with strong words when occasion demands, and of course, when opportunity calls for it, supporting us with tender, compassionate, and loving words also. Once I went to my spiritual teacher, my grandmother, complained to her that I was in great sorrow, and asked her why people should cause me suffering. You should not picture my granny as a sweet old lady seated in a rocking chair knitting. There were times when she would take me to task and use language that would hurt and yet strengthen me. She could be very harsh, particularly to those who were close to her. This was the mark of her love. And on this occasion she pricked my bubble with ease by pointing out that I was not suffering from sorrow, but from self-pity. When I grieve for others, that is sorrow, which is ennobling and strengthening. But when I grieve for myself, it is not really sorrow. It is the debilitating emotion called self-pity. Immediately, like a true friend, Lord Krishna tells Arjuna to stop behaving like a water buffalo, which, if it sees a pool of mud, will go and roll in it over and over again until it is completely covered with mud. In order to live like a human being, to lead the spiritual life, Sri Krishna insists, Arjuna must stop wallowing in self-pity. To apply this to ourselves, we have only to look into our minds to see how much of our time we spend in dwelling upon what our father did to us, what our mother did to us, or what our partner said 5 years ago on a certain rainy morning. This is what goes on in the witch's cauldron seething in our consciousness. Arjuna has beautiful eyes, but he has been sulking like a little child and shedding so many tears of self-pity that he cannot see anything clearly. Our eyes, when full of self-pity, see even those who are dear to us as very cruel, as persecutors, not because they are like that, but because the tears of self-pity have clouded our vision. As the Buddha puts it, he abused me, he beat me, he defeated me, he robbed me. In those who harbor such thoughts, hatred will not cease. He abused me, he beat me, he defeated me, he robbed me. In those who do not harbor such thoughts, hatred will cease. In the next verse, Lord Krishna will tell Arjuna to silence this "she did this to me, he did this to me" refrain in his consciousness, so that he can hear the Lord. Sri Krishna has to shock. He has to be severe to get Arjuna out of this morass. This is the way he shows his love. Sri Krishna. This despair and self-pity in a time of crisis is mean and unworthy of you, Arjuna. How have you fallen into a state so far from the path to liberation? Sri Krishna looks with severity at Arjuna, who is overwhelmed by the horror and agony of self-naughting, and says, "Where does this depression, despair, and self-pity come from, Arjuna? Get rid of these things. They have no place where I live, in your heart of hearts." The Lord uses the word anarya, which means unworthy, to refer to Arjuna, whose conduct has not been fully worthy of himself as a human being. You and I, by coming into the human context, have evolved beyond the animal stage. What distinguishes us from the animal level is our capacity to forget our own petty personal satisfactions in bringing about the happiness of all those around us. On one occasion when I was in college, A group of college friends and I were discussing the usual topics that young men talk about, when my spiritual teacher overheard a few key words, mostly about personal pleasure, profit, and prestige. She was just coming from the cowshed, which she cleaned with her own holy hands every morning. The cows provided us with milk, butter, and yogurt, and therefore she considered it a necessary part of hospitality to make the home of the cows clean, to give them proper food, and to guard them against sickness. So just as she was coming out of the cattle shed, she heard us all talking in this vein. She never wasted time on many words. She caught hold of one of my cousins, who was the ringleader, and told him, "You get in the cowshed. That is where you belong. We will give you plenty of hay, cotton seeds, and rice water." Because of her great love for us, she could shock us with these strong words without hurting us at all. It is not enough if we walk on two legs, part our hair, and go about in a new suit. That does not make us a human being. The capacity to forget our own personal pleasures and to bless those who curse us, these are what mark a human being. Arjuna cowers now because there is lightning darting out of the eyes of the Lord when he says, "Asvargya." You have locked the door of the kingdom of heaven within by refusing to eliminate your ego, by failing to turn your back upon self-will and separateness. The Lord shocks Arjuna out of his torpor by using these strong words, and when he has been pulled out of his despondency and despair, Sri Krishna continues in the 3rd verse. It does not become you to yield to this weakness. Arise with a brave heart and destroy the enemy. Sri Krishna asks Arjuna to come out of this whirlpool in which he has been caught, saying, "It is unworthy of you. You are a blessed human being now, and you cannot say that these challenges are too great to face." When the senses are driving us, we cannot make the excuse that we are unable to resist. We cannot say that just because there is food nearby, we must eat. We cannot say that everybody smokes, therefore we must smoke. Everybody drinks, therefore we must drink. However difficult circumstances may be, however formidable the challenges may be, we can be certain that because the Lord is within us, we have the infinite resources of his love and wisdom to meet the challenge. When our dear ones are agitating us, we cannot complain that we cannot live with them, because the Lord will answer, "Why can't you? I am in you. Draw upon me to return love for hatred, goodwill for ill will." Having thus made short work of Arjuna's ego, Sri Krishna now tells him to get up, to rise to his full stature, to straighten his head until it reaches the stars with the whole sky as a crown. He says, "Arjuna, you have such valor in you, because I live in you. All you need do is to draw upon me, and you can destroy the enemy completely." He ends the verse by addressing Arjuna as Parantapa, destroyer of the foe, which is the ego. Arjuna, how can I ever bring myself to fight against Bhishma and Drona, who are worthy of reverence? How can I, Krishna? Certainly it would be better to spend my life begging than to kill these great and worthy souls. If I killed them, every pleasure I found would be tainted. Even though Sri Krishna has been taking Arjuna to task for bemoaning his helplessness and his inability to conquer his own sense cravings and selfish urges, Arjuna still feels that the senses are his friends. He turns to Sri Krishna and says, "What kind of counsel are you giving me? These senses are good, steady friends of mine. I should receive them with hospitality and give them everything they ask for. I am shocked that you should use such unspiritual language and ask me to defy the clamor of my senses." In our own daily life, we can see how much conflict we have where the senses are concerned. When the eyes want to see something agitating, we feel we must show them all kinds of violent sights. When the ears want to hear raucous music that will agitate the mind and damage our hearing, we tell the Lord, "You don't expect us to say no, do you?" Since we do not want to be cruel to our ears, We take them to all kinds of parties where the din is so great it lifts the roof. Then food. What the palate demands must be good for the body. Highly spiced, deep-fried, over-refined. This is the stuff the palate enjoys, so we conclude that it is very good for the body. In the early part of our spiritual development, this conflict is likely to come to all of us, because we have given license to our senses most of the time. Similarly, we have never consciously tried to go against our self-will, and therefore even the discipline of putting our family and friends first is going to take a long time to master. We are likely to complain to the Lord that by asking us to put other people first all the time, He's making our path too difficult. Why should I inflict violence on my self-will, we moan. This agitates my mind, making meditation difficult. Arjuna: I don't even know which would be better, for us to conquer them, or for them to conquer us. The sons of Dhritarashtra have confronted us, but why would we care to live if we kill them? Arjuna now raises a question which many of us may be tempted to ask when we are having difficulties on the spiritual path. He says, after all, even if I conquer the senses, how do I know that I will be able to control my mind? And even if I control my mind, how do I know that I will be able to eliminate the ego? This is all speculation. I'm not convinced that all this is so carefully connected. It appears too logical. What does it matter if I conquer my senses or my senses conquer me? What is the use of rising to the summit of human consciousness and conquering the world if I am not there to enjoy it? If my senses are detached, my mind cannot get excited, and there are no more likes and dislikes. It seems to Arjuna that he is being asked to throw himself into an even more painful, agitating state. He's completely bewildered, and now breaks down and asks for spiritual guidance from Sri Krishna, the Lord of Love, who has been listening quietly and compassionately all the while. Arjuna: my will is paralyzed, and I am utterly confused. Tell me which is the better path for me. Let me be your disciple. I have fallen at your feet. Give me instruction. Arjuna tells Sri Krishna, I am your disciple. Now be my teacher and instruct me. In the orthodox Hindu tradition, until we ask a spiritual teacher to be our guru, showing our readiness to receive guidance on the path of meditation, the teacher does not offer to do this for us. It is a great moment in the Gita when for the first time Arjuna declares himself the devoted disciple of Sri Krishna and asks him to be his beloved teacher. The word guru means one who is heavy, so deeply established within himself or herself that no force on earth can affect the complete love the guru feels for everyone. If you curse him, he will bless you. If you harm her, she will serve you. And if you exploit him, he will become your benefactor. It is good for us to remember that the guru, the spiritual teacher, is in every one of us. All that another person can do is make us aware of the teacher within ourselves. The outer teacher makes us aware of the teacher within. And to the extent we can be loyal to the outer teacher, we are being loyal to ourselves, to our Atman. We are told in the scriptures to select a teacher very carefully. We should not get carried away by personal appearance, because we like their hairstyle or saffron robe. We have to listen carefully, judge carefully, and then make our own decision. Once we make a decision and select an outer teacher who is suited to our spiritual needs, we must be completely loyal. If I may refer to my own small example, I have committed the innumerable mistakes that most of us commit in our modern civilization. But in giving all my love to my grandmother, I was able to attain some spiritual awareness. When the disciples love the guru, it is this love that unifies their consciousness. At the time when we are ready for it, the spiritual teacher will step aside to show us that all the love we have been giving to our teacher has been directed to our own Atman. The guru, who has become complete in himself, does not need anyone's love to make him secure. It is in order to unify the consciousness of the disciple that the relationship exists. If you are prepared to undertake the long journey, the teacher will give you the map and all necessary instructions, but you have got to do the traveling yourself. That the teacher cannot provide. The purpose of visiting a spiritual teacher is to be reminded that there is a destination. There is a supreme goal in life, and we all have the innate capacity to undertake the journey. When people used to sit in the presence of Sri Ramana Maharshi and praise him, he would just smile, as if to say, "There is no Sri Ramana Maharshi. I am just a little keyhole through which, when you fix your eye with complete concentration, you can see the beckoning, irresistible vision of the Lord." The Lord is most eager to meet us. He is much more eager than we are. He has been waiting and waiting for millennia, and we are standing him up. Every minute, he is looking to see whether there is anybody coming home at last. And finally, after millions of years of evolution, when all our toys are broken, we decide reluctantly to turn back. When we go back, like this, after millions of years of separation, the Lord tells us out of his infinite love, "What good boys and girls to have come on your own." In this verse, Arjuna begins to turn to the Lord by asking him to lead him forward on the path to self-realization. Arjuna: what can overcome a sorrow that saps all my vitality? Even power over men and gods or the wealth of an empire seems empty. Sanjaya: this is how Arjuna, the great warrior, spoke to Sri Krishna. With the words, "O Govinda, I will not fight," he became silent. Arjuna, taking his bow and arrows and putting them away, looks silently at the ground. His actions tell the Lord, "I am not going to fight because I do not have the strength, the will, or the wisdom to turn all my endeavor toward the conquest of myself." It is impossible for any of us to take on the ego, which is really a formidable foe, without undergoing tremendous spiritual disciplines. When in the early stage of their meditation, people complain to me about difficulties in controlling the palate, or giving up smoking or drinking, the Job's consolation that I give them is that these are just preliminaries. The fight has not begun yet. You're just clearing the arena. The real fight begins only when the ego, huge and ferocious, comes onto the field. Yesterday I was listening to a reading from the Bible about the combat between David and Goliath, which I took as a first-hand description of the spiritual life. Goliath comes and tells the armies of Israel to send their best man. If their man wins, then Goliath and his followers will serve the Israelites. But if Goliath wins, then the Israelites will become the servants of their enemy. The description of Goliath is impressive and terrifying. His armor is invulnerable. He stands on the field like a giant. When David comes up with his 5 little stones and his puny sling, Goliath gets furious and says, "What are you trying to do, catch a dog?" David takes a little pebble and hits Goliath with a fatal blow right in the center of his forehead. I interpret such stories spiritually. One of the Shiva mantrams is called Panchakshara, the 5-lettered mantram. And for me, the 5 pebbles that David was carrying were a 5-lettered mantram with which he was able to defeat his own ego. The ego's size can be gauged by our anger, and the further we get into the depths of our consciousness, the more we shall see what anger surges in us when our self-will is violated. To defeat this colossal ego will take a long, long period of struggle, with many reverses. But finally, the Gita and the scriptures of all religions assure us, through the grace of the Lord, we will be able to eliminate our ego and extinguish our self-will, which is the only barrier between us and the Lord. Sanjaya: as they stood between the 2 armies, Sri Krishna spoke with a smile to Arjuna, who had fallen into despair. The Lord, Sri Krishna, does not get angry or agitated while listening to Arjuna's many objections, but smiling with great affection for his disciple and friend, he now begins to teach.